Hey everyone, I am Maxine and I am 30 years old. This post is about my extremely obnoxious mother-in-law Kayla and about my awesome payback. So I come from a humble background. My mum did a decent enough job of raising me almost single-handedly as my dad was out most of the time for his work. He worked in an ill-paid firm and had to work really hard to even bring food to the table. From my childhood itself, I have been excellent in academics. I got a fully paid scholarship to go to college and hence left my house and rented an apartment, which I shared with 4 other girls just outside campus. I worked part-time in a cafe to pay the rent and for other basic amenities. I was very determined to get a well-paid job when I graduated. I was not much of a looker and hence didn't receive any extra attention from the boys in my class, and neither was I looking for love when Fred entered my life and swept me off my feet. One day I was working in the cafe when I was asked to wait at Fred's table. "Good evening, sir. May I have your order?"
"No, but you may have my number."
"Yeah, no thanks."
"Hey, at least give me a chance, Ginger girl."
"Firstly, sir, my name is Maxine and not Ginger. If that was an attempt at joking, then it kind of failed. Now, may I please have your order, sir?"
"Yes, ma'am. 1 coffee, please."
"Be right there, sir."
"And Maxine, can you draw a little heart on it, please?"
I couldn't help but blush at Fred's comments, although I didn't let it show and kept a straight face while serving him. The next day, he was there again. Soon he was a regular at that cafe and always insisted that I wait on his table. My co-workers called him my boyfriend, even though I had denied it 100,000 times already. So one day, after a particularly bad teasing session from my co-workers, when Fred came in, I was already annoyed. I told them that I would prove to them that Fred was not my boyfriend, so I went to his table looking very angry and demanded, "What do you want?"
"The usual."
"No, I mean this whole thing about you insisting on me waiting on your table, drawing hearts. What is happening? What do you want?"
"Dinner?"
"We don't start serving till 8.
"No, Ginger, I meant with you."
The rest is history. The name stuck, and so did the man. I said yes to that dinner, and things fell in place. We started dating and moved in together. I learned that Fred's dad is a millionaire, and he is his only son. He wanted to introduce me to his parents, but I asked him to wait till I had a job. After graduating, I started working in a firm as their sales manager, and soon enough, I was the talk of the firm. I made some bold decisions that shot the sales of the firm and boosted its growth. I climbed the corporate ladder steadily. I was earning enough by then and felt confident meeting Fred's parents. I told him I was ready to meet his parents. He told me before arranging the meeting that his mum was very possessive about him and to not take anything she said to heart. I thought I understood a mother's heart and how she would want the best for her son, so I told him not to worry. Had I known how toxic Kayla would turn out to be, I would never have kept my cool during that first encounter. One Sunday morning, we set out to meet Fred's parents. We drove into this huge mansion that would have surprised baby Maxine. It was like living in my childhood princess fantasy. I felt very self-conscious as we walked down the great hall to go into the dining room where Fred's parents awaited us. Kayla and George were sipping on wine when we took our seats. George poured me some wine even before I could say no. Then we proceeded to have the worst conversation possible.
"So, my dear,
What was your name again?" "Maxine, ma'am, but you can call me Max."
"Yes, sorry, Maxine. I really remember the names of all the ladies that my son brings home. You can't believe, my dear, there are so many gold diggers out there. They practically throw themselves at my son."
"I believe it may be so, ma'am, but I'm not one of them."
"Well, you wouldn't tell that even if you were one." "Mum, that's enough."
"What is enough, my dear? I don't think I have said anything at all." "Ma'am, you are insulting me. I'm no gold digger. I am in one of the topmost positions in one of the topmost firms in the country."
"Oh, so you mean you are a corporate slave and recently came into money? And my son is your backup plan in case your career fails? Mum, I said enough! I would like to have a word with you alone, now!"
Kayla looked offended and got up and left the room, and Fred followed.
George, who was quiet till then, suddenly said,
I think you are a bright girl, Maxine. I would like to have you in my family. Don't mind my wife. She's very overprotective about Fred.
I tried to smile, but I was dying to know what Fred and Kayla were talking about. So I excused myself and soon stood behind a door where I could clearly hear them, but they couldn't see me.
Mum, you must be nice to Max. She literally has no intention of taking my money.
You think you know better than me, Fred? I have seen countless gold diggers in my time.
Just because she used to be poor doesn't mean she is poor. When you met Dad, he was a billionaire. Would you have liked it if people judged you the way you judge Maxine?
Fred Andrew Pearson! You dare not compare my marriage to your father to your month-long fling with some random poor, freckled ginger girl. You will only sit at that table if you can respect me. Otherwise, take yourself and that nuisance out of my house right now.
She is no fling, and yes, we are leaving.
I could hear angry footsteps coming in my direction, so I quickly ran back to the table and pretended to drink the wine. Soon enough, Fred burst in and asked me to take my coat as we were leaving, and that we would have food on the way back home. I didn't say anything except nodding in assent as my eyes were already stinging with tears. The drive back home was really quiet. Fred was lost in his own thoughts, and I was sniffling. I felt hopeless. I am usually an optimistic person, but I couldn't be optimistic about that situation. I didn't know whom Fred would choose, and most importantly, I didn't want him to choose between me and his family. I wanted his mum to like me. I really hoped that someday she would actually like me. We bought pizza on the way home and had an early dinner. After dinner, I asked him if we should stop seeing each other. Fred looked absolutely aghast. He held my hands and said,
Maxine, nothing can stop me seeing you, not even my mum. You can't get rid of me now, Ginger. This is meant to last.
I felt as happy as a little girl. Fred was incredibly sweet after that. Perhaps he felt that I would leave him for his mum. I had no such plans, and during that time I used to expect that someday I would win over Kayla. I now know I was naive back then, but know that I know better now. A few months later, Fred proposed, and I accepted. He said we should elope, and we did do that. It was an adventurous adventure and romantic. Later, Kayla insisted on a formal wedding because apparently she didn't want to lose face in her friend circle. I insisted on paying half the cost of the wedding, even though Fred wanted to pay for the whole thing. That was a great event too, and as I walked down the aisle, I wished my father was there. But he had passed away a few years ago. While walking down the aisle, I suddenly spotted Kayla in a floor-length white dress, and honestly, I wanted to run. I knew instantly she had no intention of ever changing her mind about me, and she would try to break off my marriage at every step. But then I saw the smiling face of Fred and went ahead with the wedding. Throughout the wedding, she left no stone unturned to make me feel left out. She wanted family pictures without me, and for Fred to sit at their table instead of sitting beside me. She also constantly trash-talked about her so-called friends behind their backs. I was shocked to hear the horrible comments that my mother-in-law made about their appearance behind their backs and how she changed tones in front of them. My mother-in-law was a double-faced hypocrite. She seemed to be obsessed with everyone's jewels, dresses, and looks, and wanted to upstage everybody in that room, including the bride, aka me. I was emotionally drained after that wedding and slept for 12 hours straight afterward. Fred understood my condition and was always supportive. After marriage, I had to see even more of Kayla, and her jibes and taunts about my appearance were relentless. She'd started commenting even about my wrinkles and compared her youthful skin with mine. I used to dread the days she would visit and usually try to stay more at work, but then she would turn even that against me and say how I neglected her son's well-being for my selfish motive. I tried, reasoning with her that I only worked hard so that we could save enough money for the future of our baby, but that was of no use. Kayla had a habit of insisting that we dine with them from Christmas to New Year. Usually she would use that occasion to tell my husband that he had chosen a nuisance for a wife, who was so poor that she had to rely on him, and then she would loudly criticize the gift that I would give her while simultaneously praising the one that Fred gave, even though That would be my choice, as Fred left the whole Christmas shopping to me. Now, the year that is in question is the year when I got pregnant. My hormones already messed with my emotions, and Kayla would not miss a single chance to make me feel bad about my body. She would say horrible things, and when confronted by Fred, would straight up lie and feign ignorance and blame it on my hormones. 5 days with my mother-in-law would be impossible that year, so I decided that it was high time that she realized what she did to me was wrong. I anyway wanted to stop her before the baby came along, because I didn't want him to grow up seeing his grandma putting down his mother by making shallow comments about her appearance. This could influence the child's mind and affect his views. I didn't want him to have such a shallow mentality as his grandmum. So I took things into my own hands. I started snooping around the Pearson mansion. I started frequenting their house more and more and tolerated her jibes for the ultimate revenge. I went with the pretext of how I wanted their grandchild to have a bond with his grandparents. George was really sweet to me during this time and brought fruits and chocolates for me. Caleb would usually organise kitty parties on the days I visited and use that as an excuse to not sit with me and George. Little did she know that's what I was actually there for. Usually she would loudly exclaim to her friends that her daughter-in-law was such a nuisance and the absolute worst, but as soon as any of them went to the washroom, or not turn up or go home early, she would say horrible things about them as well. Now this bit was what I was there for. I noted their names and the horrible things she said about them. Sometimes I even recorded bits and pieces of what my mother-in-law would say on a small recorder. During this time, I also snooped around the mansion, and one day in her boudoir, I found something particularly interesting. It was her records of her visit to a famous plastic surgeon. She had done Botox quite several times, so that's what was the secret of her youthful skin. I have nothing against people who choose to get plastic surgery and can afford it. But I was definitely against what my mother-in-law did. She would hide the fact that she had Botox done and would also shame anybody who had chosen to age naturally and not get anything done. One of her favourite topics of shaming was my wrinkles. I carefully documented and prepared for my mother-in-law's doomsday. That year, I decided to give my mother-in-law a parrot. A beautiful bird it was, very smart and intelligent. Parrots can even mimic their owners and are known to be fast learners. So on the day of Christmas, me and Fred took the parrot and set out for the much-awaited Christmas dinner with the Pearsons. Kayla had insisted on throwing me a baby shower and had chosen Christmas as the date for it. When we arrived, all of Kayla's friends had already arrived. George seemed to be found nowhere, so Fred went off to find him. Now it was just me, Kayla, and Kayla's friends. They all exchanged meaningful looks and sniggered at some inside joke. They started bringing out their gifts for me and also making quite a lot of remarks about how I should be a stay-at-home mum and what I should apply on my face to prevent wrinkles, etc., etc. Then came the time that I was waiting for. I said that I wanted to present to my mother-in-law the very special gift that I bought, saying, "This I gave her the parrot." For the first time even, my mother-in-law was impressed. They had no idea what would happen as soon as one of them said Kayla. It took about 5 minutes to start. One of my mother-in-law's friends said, "Kayla, let me have a look at that big baby." Off went the bird.
"Ah, how horrible! Have you seen Linda's stomach in that dress? How ugly! How crass! How ugly! Ugly! Ugly!"
Wait, what? God, that's not me! But dear Kayla, nobody said it's you. Oh my god, so do you think she's mimicking you? Oh no.
Ew! How tacky is that dress that Jenny wore? The only good thing about her is her husband. Ha 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 ha! Did you look at Jenna today? That hair colour is horrible. Even my ginger daughter-in-law has better hair than that. Ha 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 ha!
Kayla got up at this point and tried to catch the bird, but the parrot flew up and sat on a high cupboard and continued spilling the beans. "Bring that horrible liar down!" "But dearest, it's not a lie. It must have heard you say those things and is only mimicking you." "I am sorry to say." "Oh look, it still has things to say."
Kayla gets Botox but shames others for aging. Shame on Kayla. Shame! 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 Kayla is a liar. Kayla is a double-faced. Ew, Sandra's dress must be thrifted. Oh no, Beatrice is poor now. That's why she doesn't come to kitty parties. Poor. Ew, poor. Kayla hates you. Kayla hates her. Kayla, no.
Maxine, stop that beast of yours!
But Kayla, it's yours. Maybe you can learn to see the good in others for a change. I don't know. Suit yourself. I looked around and everybody looked shocked. Their faces were red and they all got up, grabbed their coats and left one by one and slammed the door hard each time. Kayla sat on the couch with her head in between her hands. Suddenly, she looked up and said,
You did this! You ruined my image, my reputation, my everything! How will this ever be fixed?
It's not me. You ruined your image, your reputation, your everything. If you can't show your face outside from now on, then it's your fault. Fix yourself, Kayla, then things will fix themselves.
Shut up! Don't you dare lecture me! You are after the property, are you not? You married Fred for his property. I'll make sure that you don't get a penny for that.
Kayla is a gold digger. Hypocrite, Kayla. Hypocrite. Oh no. Liar spotted.
Drawn by the commotion, Fred came in. He took a quick scan of the situation and took out the bird's cage and opened its door, and the bird promptly flew inside it. Kayla almost pounced upon Fred.
Oh, Freddie, your wife is horrible. She did this. Tell her off, Freddie. Tell her off.
What do you mean, Mum, by saying that Maxine did it?
She brought the bird, Fred. You must divorce the deceptive woman. We will take full custody of our grandchild. We will hire the best lawyers. The Nuisance needs to go. How dare you? Make sure she loses her position at her firm, George. Sue her. Wring her dry of every penny.
I'm not divorcing her, Mum. I think the Parrot learns what it hears. He probably heard you say those things somewhere. I don't know how, nor do I care where. That bird was totally mimicking you, so at least now you know how you sound all the time and how obnoxious you are to Maxine. I guess it was high time you know, Mum.
Kayla looked taken aback and turned to George, who was looking at the orchids in the garden with a lot of interest. Kayla screeched at George.
George, are you at least going to stand up for my dignity? Your son has already been turned into a puppet by this gingerhead witch. Sue her, George. Make sure she loses her position at her firm.
Well, actually, about losing her position at the firm, I think I can help you with that bit, Kayla. Maxine, would you like to join my company's sales department? You can work from home and we will pay you more than what you're being paid in your current job. Would you be interested?
George, no, I didn't mean that. What is wrong with all of you? Are you all kidding me? She disrespected me. She spoiled my reputation.
Well, as far as I can see, Maxine gave you a wonderful gift. Now it's up to the person who got it as to how they will use it. I don't think we will have a solid case, Kay. So, Max, what do you think of my offer?
I think I would love to take up your offer, sir.
You can call me George or Dad if you like, Max.
Kayla looked almost insane at that moment. She kept on glancing at me and George and then at Fred. I had tears in my eyes as well, but they were happy tears. I asked George if I would call him Pops, and that is what I called my own father. He came up to me and hugged me, and at that moment I felt truly blessed. Meanwhile, Kayla was packing her bags and threatening to go live with her maternal relatives. Fred told her that if she leaves, she will miss the birth of her grandchild. She said that she didn't care and that she was better off without them. To her utter disbelief, George didn't even try stopping her, and Fred was seething with anger because of what she said about not caring about our baby. Kayla hailed a cab and left. I gave birth to a healthy boy in February. George and Fred were overjoyed. My mother came down from the country to bless the baby. She brought homemade cookies and brownies with her, and George couldn't stop eating those. George Jr.'s birthday month was filled with nothing but the happiest memories. Kayla returned in the middle of March when she realized that she couldn't pay her credit card bills anymore. She made a big scene about how nobody informed her about the birth of her grandson. Fred immediately reminded her how, before leaving, she said that she didn't care about the baby, so we decided to let her go and let her do whatever she liked. She then denied ever saying that and proceeded to cuddle the baby. George asked Kayla to apologize to me. She acted surprised and said that she didn't even know what she should be sorry for. When George insisted and started listing all the terrible things she had done, Kayla looked at me reluctantly and mumbled, "Sorry."
Honestly, that was more than what I ever expected of her, so I accepted gladly. That night, Fred told me that he plans on keeping his contacts with his mum at a minimum level. His logic for that was that he wouldn't want his child to grow up hearing terrible lies about his parents and his grandpa, and he was sure that would happen if our baby was left alone with Kayla. I had doubts about the same thing and was really glad to see that my husband thought the same and gave a voice to my concerns. I had not wanted to broach the subject because I didn't want Fred to cut off his mum just because of me. I couldn't have lived with that guilt, but when Fred brought it up himself, I gladly gave my opinion and agreed with him. After that, whenever Kayla came over, we usually kept an eye on her. I have been working from home in George's company since December. I think I did a decent job managing the sales department. George told me that I did excellent, but I didn't believe him because he likes to hype me up for little things. The company sales went up by 2 times and George couldn't stop gushing about it. He asked me when I could work from the office because a promotion awaits me. I thought it was a joke until I joined in the conference room. He announced that he wanted to have me as a partner in his company. My happiness knew no bounds. We even enrolled our baby boy in play school. Things are peaceful now that my toxic mother-in-law is only at the periphery of our lives. Life is great.